Hi everyone, Sandman here. This video is brought to you by a donation from Proto Mario, and here's what he has to say. Hello Sandman, sorry I can't donate more right now. I turned on the radio today and they were talking about gifting appliances. A woman said that husbands or boyfriends should not give any appliances as a gift, but it's fine if a friend or family member does it instead. Women also think it's fine to gift tools to men. This is an obvious example of how men cannot treat a woman as a utility while a woman can. Can you explain this? And cheers. Well, Proto Mario, thanks for your donation as well as your topic request. Ironically, for Christmas, my brother wanted a George Foreman grill, and usually I buy two gifts, one for him and one for his wife, and in return they get me a gift. This year I thought I'd just buy one gift, a George Foreman grill, and pretty much leave it at that. I bought one large one for my brother for Christmas, but I briefly considered getting a huge one over $100 and putting both their names on it. But I knew instinctively that she wouldn't be happy with that, and it would cause all kinds of drama. So I decided to get a gift certificate for her in addition to the grill. But you're right, Proto Mario. There were many years when I would actually buy my father a barbecue, snow cleaning machine, or lawnmower for his birthday. But for my mother, I would get perfume or some hair salon beauty gift certificates. She wouldn't be too happy if I bought her a blender or a microwave. By buying a woman a utility item, you're telling her that she's at the same level or lower than a man. Women know they have a higher place in society than men, but they want to keep it quiet. So when you buy her a toaster or spatula over at Spatula City, she either thinks that you know her secret of being better than men, so she doesn't want to draw any more attention to it. Or perhaps her goal is to shame you for buying such a present, so you'll never buy one like that ever again. Women like to overreact in order to discipline your behavior so you'll never do it again. Never think of buying a woman something that she actually has to work to use, and it's worse when she uses it to make you dinner or do some other physical chores. But women don't seem to care too much about buying men such gifts. If a woman buys a man a barbecue, he's going to cook her meals on that barbecue, and in addition, she's going to insult him and say that he doesn't know how to cook anything other than barbecue. Meanwhile, she's the one that bought him that barbecue in the first place. Women receive and give gifts that will basically get things done for them, or gifts that will allow them to control their men. She insults him by buying a barbecue because it means she's basically going to ask him for dinner. It's a triple shame burger with extra cheese, and most guys will never understand how all it took was a gift to do that. The same goes for the snowblower or snow machine. So she was nice to buy you a machine to make cleaning the driveway a lot easier. Then the moment it starts snowing, she expects him to use that machine. If he doesn't, then she shames him for it. He's supposed to feel grateful for all the stuff that she's done for him, but at the same time, she's treating him like shit. She must have bought me that snowblower because she loves me, he says, but then she criticizes him for not using it right or not using it enough. Most guys don't understand how one good deed from a woman that he loves can cause so much pain, but she understands. She set it up all the way. So when a man buys a woman an appliance, she hates it because she thinks that the potential is there for him to turn it around on her. She thinks to herself, he bought me a new stove, so he's going to basically shame and guilt me into making dinner for him all the time. That's the real reason women hate getting appliances. Not necessarily because they're going to be turned into utility objects, but because the potential is there for the guy to blackmail her with his good deeds. He bought her that new kitchen, and if she doesn't use it, he's going to basically use it to his advantage. Now I understand why back in the late 1980s my mother paid for her own damn kitchen renovation, and my father didn't give her a dime for it. Of course, for many years she would say to everyone that she paid for it so that she could effectively shame him for being bad and not giving her money. But I think that was a cover story, and the real reason she didn't get him to pay for it was partially because he was cheap, but also because now I see he could have used such a big purchase and held it over her head and demanded that she make all types of dinners that he wanted. Women used to love kitchens back in the 1950s and before, because back then when you bought her stuff like that, you made life easier, and women tended to be grateful. And even if they weren't, what choice did they have but to pretend? Today a woman posted a comment on my channel and said that she hasn't heard anyone speak about women the way that I do since the 1970s or possibly even the 1980s. I took that as a big compliment because that was roughly the time when real men started to disappear. By real men, I mean guys that were more willing to stand up for themselves and put women in their place. But we all know how well that ended with the epidemic of divorces back in the 1970s and 80s. So women as a collective said that if you put us in our place and pass the shit test, it doesn't matter because we're still going to divorce you and take your kids because it's socially acceptable to do that, and now it's in fashion. Hopefully in 10 years, buying someone an appliance will be like purchasing a television because the robotic appliances will probably do everything. But right now I think women will take offense to appliances as gifts because it's not only the woman that's going to use it. They are general items and don't necessarily sit on a woman's body specifically. If you want to buy a woman a gift, you have to buy something like clothing, jewelry, personal electronics like a cell phone or tablet, or shoes and other things that she puts on her body or surrounds her body and that's on her and no one else uses. I can't tell you how many times my ex-girlfriends bought me things that they themselves would use. One would buy me sweaters that she could use as well. And if I were to pull the woman card, I would have gotten all pissed off and said, the only reason you bought me this because you think it also looks good on you as well. Or if they buy you something like a barbecue, they too will use it sometimes, or at the very least get you to prepare dishes that they want. I found that as a guy, the personal items you receive from your significant other often come at the beginning of a relationship, but over time they get less and less frequent. I've received tools from women before and still have a screwdriver set from about 15 years ago. I've also tended to receive the cheapest paintings possible. Anyways, I think that's about all I can say with regards to female utility when it comes to buying gifts that they can use. I don't want to spend the rest of this video going around in circles over the same material, so I hope you don't mind me discussing female utility from a different perspective. Women now see their value not as homemakers anymore or mothers, but they now see their utility value from two different things: their sexuality and their careers. In the past, women got their value from being mothers and homemakers. Today, however, they get their value from how well they can manipulate a man to marry them, or basically hand over their resources to them using their sexuality, as well as how much money they make and take home from their jobs. Their effort is now being put into places where they can gain the most return on their investment. But ironically, those two things, working and servicing men sexually, are things that women don't enjoy all that much. Not as much as they enjoy raising children and taking care of their homes. Everyone knows how women get happy and smile around children and animals. You can see a sense of genuine joy in their faces. The other thing that homemaking gives them is pride, as well as provides competition against other women. Women, it seems, are meant to compete with one another as equals, or to see who has the nicest and tidiest home, who cooks the best, or who has the most handsome and successful husband. There's an old rumor floating around that women civilize men. The reason that rumor goes around is probably because in the past women took care of the home, but they also took care of their husbands. Because how their husband was dressed and presented to the world was a reflection of the woman that he was with. Women like my mother would often pick out my clothing as well as my father's and brothers while I was growing up. They would provide a fashion sense when most guys out there were absolutely clueless about fashion. I was guilty of that too while I was younger. So in a sense, women did civilize men, but today they don't civilize men so much as breaking them in like a plow horse and keeping them under control with regards to an emotional reign of terror. So the man has to stay politically correct. Women today are still allowed to be women, but men, on the other hand, are afraid to be men because of the social consequences. Most married men are in a prison where the marriage contract keeps them bound to the woman. I often say that women are bad for initiating divorces roughly 60 to 70% of the time. Men don't initiate as often because they love women, yes, but also because they will lose their children, as well as their income, and the wife will destroy his life too. I bet you that if there was no such thing as alimony, and there was shared custody of children, then I'm betting you that the majority of divorces out there would be initiated by men and not women. I can't tell you how many times I've heard stories from old women saying that their husbands left them and the kids. Men probably left in the past because their wives were awful to them. But we never hear that part. It's always about the husband who abandoned them. I've heard that story 1,000 times. As a man that's left two long-term relationships that might as well have been the length of the average marriage, I can tell you that my biggest mistake was picking women that didn't have much utility value in both the traditional and non-traditional feminist sense. I always expected them to see how serious I was, and then eventually they would just magically take responsibility. Love blinded me from seeing female utility value back then, and now I see it all around me. I see women that have very successful careers, and all they see around them are men that are basically making equal to or less money than they do, and therefore they don't want relationships with such men. When women compete with men at work and they beat them at the career game, they think that they're actually too good for the man. But when the man takes care of the house and looks after the kids, they look down on him like he's less than a man. They will hate any man that's not more successful than themselves. The problem is there aren't enough men out there for women to look up to and respect as higher status. Women need men to be above them, stronger, smarter, and more successful for women's traditional utility value of mother and wife to shine through. If they beat men at their own so-called game by rigging the job market and affirmative action and other government policies, then there are very few successful men out there for them to chase. And if there aren't enough good guys to go around, society falls apart both socially and culturally. I'm predicting that unless we have some sort of artificial reproductive technology, women are going to get dragged back to the kitchen and family home kicking and screaming. And they'll be taken away from the working world, not because men are trying to oppress them, but because populations will fall, and it either means limit women's social mobility and tie it to a husband or destroy the species. The choice is simple, and if things get bad enough, and when enough men realize what's happening, there will probably be some sort of society-wide return to traditionalism even if we don't want it. Of course, if we go the other way and men can reproduce with technology and have sex with robots, women will become obsolete and will probably go extinct naturally, as most people will choose to have kids and they'll choose to have boys. Eventually, women could become like novelty items in our society or possibly be kept around for breeding and sex purposes in poor parts of the world. There are two roads that we can follow from here and where we're standing. We can all agree that the current trajectory we're on is not sustainable economically, culturally, socially, or politically. In fact, it's leading to a breakdown on all four of these things. Technology replaced most of women's jobs at home, so women started taking men's jobs. Eventually, robots and software will take most of the women's jobs, and I honestly can't wait for that. Anyways, that's all I've got to say for today. Thanks again, Proto Mario, for your donation as well as your topic. Also, don't forget to check out the MGTOW mystery link and like this video. As for everyone else out there, please follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook to get tomorrow's video today. Thanks for taking your daily dose of red pills. And remember, a red pill a day keeps the working women away. So enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.